The real estate agent placed the bright red sold sticker on the sign while my family stood completely frozen on the driveway. The same driveway where they'd laughed at me just weeks before. The same spot where my brother had literally pointed at me and said I'd never own anything worth having. My sister's voice shook first, breaking the stunned silence. You. How could you afford this place? This doesn't make any sense. Her face had gone from smug confidence to confused disbelief in seconds. My brother's mouth hung open, his expensive sunglasses sliding down his nose. My mother looked like someone had just told her the sky was falling. I took a deep breath, feeling years of suppressed emotions rising in my chest. Finally, after years of mockery and dismissal and being treated like the family failure, it was my moment. The moment I'd been working toward in secret. The moment they'd said would never come. The moment that would rewrite every assumption they'd ever made about me. Hi. My name is Naomi, and for years my family treated me like the broke failure who'd never amount to anything. They measured success by how much you showed off, not by what you actually built. And I was about to prove them spectacularly wrong. The house behind me, the beautiful 3-bedroom Craftsman with the wraparound porch and the oak trees in the yard, wasn't just any house. It was the house. The prize property my entire family had been competing to buy for months. The house they'd talked about endlessly at family gatherings. The house my brother said would separate the successful from the struggling. The house that was supposed to prove once and for all who in the family had really made it. And now it was mine. All mine. 2 years ago at a family dinner, everything had started to change. We were all gathered at my parents' house for Sunday meal, a tradition my mother insisted on maintaining. My older brother Marcus leaned back in his chair with that infuriating smirk he'd perfected since childhood and said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Maybe you should just stick to your little job, Naomi. Accept that not everyone's built for real success." The table went quiet for just a moment before scattered laughter erupted. My younger sister giggled into her wine glass. My father shook his head like I was a disappointment he'd accepted long ago. My mom chimed in while cutting the roast, not even looking up. "Just be grateful your siblings don't charge you rent for breathing near success, dear." More laughter. I sat there with my fork frozen halfway to my mouth, my face burning with humiliation. This wasn't the first time they'd mocked me, but something about that particular moment cut deeper than usual. Maybe it was the casual cruelty. Maybe it was how comfortable they all were with treating me like a punchline. Whatever it was, something inside me shifted that night from hurt to determination. Their newest obsession at that time was a luxury house that had just hit the market in the best neighborhood in town. It was beautiful, craftsman style, original hardwood floors, updated kitchen, huge backyard. And it was surprisingly affordable because it had been on the market for months with some inspection issues that scared off buyers. My family saw it as the ultimate status symbol. The prize home, as Marcus kept calling it. He bragged constantly, "When I get that house, we'll throw the biggest housewarming party this town has ever seen. VIP only, of course." Then he looked straight at me with mock sympathy. "So, definitely not you, Naomi. Sorry." That night after dinner, I drove home to my small studio apartment and sat in my car for 20 minutes just thinking. My family saw me as the failure. The one with the low-salary job working as an administrative assistant at a non-profit. The one who drove a 10-year-old car. The one who never went on exotic vacations or wore designer clothes. The one who was, in their eyes, wasting her life being ordinary. But what they didn't know, what they'd never bothered to ask about, was what I did with my money. While Marcus was financing luxury cars he couldn't afford and my sister was maxing out credit cards on designer bags for Instagram posts, I was living like a ghost. I'd been meal prepping every Sunday for years, spending maybe $40 a week on groceries. I hadn't bought new clothes in 18 months except for one interview outfit from a thrift store. I didn't go to bars or clubs. I didn't take vacations. Every single dollar I didn't need for absolute essentials went straight into savings and investments. I taught myself about index funds and compound interest by reading library books and watching free YouTube videos at midnight. I even took a second job my family knew absolutely nothing about. 3 nights a week, I delivered groceries through an app, wearing a helmet and sunglasses so I wouldn't be recognized. I'd drive past restaurants where my siblings were posting Instagram stories with $100 dinners, while I had a packed sandwich in my car and was making $50 an hour in tips. They thought I was home being boring. I was building something they couldn't see. Every payday from both jobs, I'd sit in my car before going inside and whisper to myself like a mantra, "One more month. Keep going. You're almost there." The house they all wanted wasn't selling as fast as anyone expected. It looked rich and impressive in photos, but it had problems. Foundation issues that needed addressing. Old electrical that needed updating. A roof that would need replacing within 5 years. My family saw the surface, the beautiful facade, the impressive address, the status it would bring. They didn't see or care about the deeper issues. They just wanted to be the one who owned it first. They wanted the bragging rights. Rich looks, poor decisions, as usual. Marcus applied for a mortgage first. Denied. Too much debt. My sister tried with her husband. Denied. Unstable income. Even my parents looked into buying it as an investment property. Denied. Too close to retirement. Everyone in my family was getting rejected, and I watched it all happen from the sidelines while they complained loudly at every family gathering about stupid banks and unfair lending practices. They never once considered that maybe they'd overextended themselves. That maybe living beyond your means catches up with you eventually. Meanwhile, I'd been quietly working with a mortgage broker for 6 months. I had a down payment saved. I had stable employment history at both jobs. I'd listed the grocery delivery as independent contractor work. I had excellent credit because I'd never missed a payment on anything in my life. I had no debt, not even a car payment since I'd bought my old Honda in cash years ago. When my broker ran my numbers, she looked impressed. "You're in great shape, Naomi. You could actually afford something really nice." I showed her the listing for the house my family wanted. "How about this one?" She pulled up the listing and reviewed it carefully. "There are some issues with this property," she warned. "It's been sitting on the market because most buyers don't want to deal with the repairs needed." I'd done my research. I knew exactly what was wrong and exactly what it would cost to fix. I'd even gotten quotes from contractors. "I know," I told her. "But the bones are good. And I can fix what's broken." She smiled. "Then let's make an offer." I offered $10,000 below asking, a lowball that would usually be rejected. But the seller was desperate after months on the market. They countered. I countered back. We went back and forth. And then, finally, they accepted. My offer was approved. The mortgage was approved. The inspection happened. I negotiated for the seller to cover half the repair costs. Everything was falling into place like pieces of a puzzle I'd been carefully assembling for 2 years. The whole time, my family had no idea. They thought I was still struggling in my little apartment with my little job. They had no clue I was about to buy the house right out from under their competition with each other. The closing date was set. I signed papers at the title company with shaking hands, not from fear but from pure adrenaline. The real estate agent, a kind woman named Patricia who'd been patient with me through the entire process, shook my hand warmly. "Congratulations, Naomi. You worked hard for this. You should be very proud." I thanked her, my voice catching slightly. Proud didn't even begin to cover what I felt. I felt vindicated, validated, victorious. But I didn't tell my family immediately. I wanted to wait for the perfect moment. The moment that would have maximum impact. That moment came 2 weeks later when I accidentally let it slip to my mother that the house had finally sold. "Oh really?" she said on the phone. "I wonder who bought it. Marcus is going to be so disappointed." I suggested very casually that maybe we could all drive by and see if the new owners were moving in. "Just out of curiosity," I said innocently. My mother thought that was a great idea. She loved neighborhood gossip. She organized an impromptu family gathering. "Let's all meet there Sunday afternoon," she texted the family group chat. "We can see who got Marcus's dream house." The way she phrased it, Marcus's dream house, made my stomach turn. As if he'd had some claim to it. As if wanting something entitled you to it regardless of whether you could actually afford it or had worked for it. Sunday came. I drove to the house separately, arriving a few minutes before everyone else. Patricia met me there with the keys. We'd arranged this moment carefully. I stood on the driveway waiting as my family's cars pulled up one by one. Marcus arrived in his leased BMW. My sister and her husband in their financed Mercedes. My parents in their Lexus. All expensive cars. All financed or leased. All part of the image they needed to maintain. They parked along the street and walked up, chattering about who might have bought the place. Probably some tech couple, Marcus was saying. Or maybe a doctor. Someone actually successful. He said that last part while glancing at me with barely concealed condescension, as if to emphasize that successful definitely didn't include people like me. They hadn't even questioned why I was there. They probably assumed I'd tagged along to see what real success looked like. To witness what I'd never achieve. Patricia stood next to me professionally, clipboard in hand. My family approached, and my mother called out, "Excuse me, are you the agent? Do you know who purchased this beautiful home?" Patricia smiled and turned to me. "Ms. Naomi, would you like to do the honors?" She held out the keys. I took them, feeling the cool metal in my palm, and looked at my family's confused faces. "Congratulations, Ms. Naomi," Patricia said loudly and clearly. "The house is yours. Welcome home." Silence. Complete and total silence. The kind of silence where you can hear birds chirping 3 houses away. Where you can hear someone's car door closing down the street. Where you can hear your own heartbeat pounding in your ears. Then chaos erupted all at once. My mother's voice came out shrill and disbelieving. "There must be a mistake. Naomi, what is she talking about?" Marcus stepped forward aggressively, his face flushing red. "You can't afford this. This is impossible. You're poor." He actually shouted that last word. Poor. The label he'd assigned me. The box he'd kept me in. The identity he'd insisted was mine. My sister just kept repeating, "How? How? How?" Like a broken record. I let them spiral for a moment, watching years of their assumptions crumble in real time. Then I spoke, my voice calm and steady in contrast to their chaos. "Poor. No. Marcus. I'm not poor. I'm just not stupid with money." I let that sink in for a second. While you were financing cars you can't afford and taking vacations on credit cards, I was saving every penny. While you were buying designer clothes for Instagram, I was investing. While you were eating $100 dinners and mocking my meal prep, I was building a down payment. I have 2 jobs. I live below my means. And I actually understand how money works. Marcus's face went from red to almost purple. 2 jobs. What are you talking about? I smiled. Remember all those nights you thought I was home being boring? I was delivering groceries. Making extra money. Every dollar you were wasting, I was saving. Every minute you were performing success on social media, I was actually building it. My sister found her voice. But you drive that old car. You wear thrift store clothes. You never go anywhere. Exactly, I said. Because I had priorities. Real ones. Not Instagram likes. Not impressing people I don't even like. I wanted this house. So I worked for it. Actually worked. Not just wanted it and expected it to fall into my lap. My father, who'd been silent until now, finally spoke. "Naomi, I don't understand. Why didn't you tell us?" I looked at him, and all the hurt from years of being dismissed came rushing back. "Tell you what, Dad? That I was working hard? That I had goals? That I was capable? Would you have believed me? Or would you have laughed like you always did? He looked down, unable to meet my eyes. My mother was still processing, her brain clearly struggling to reconcile the daughter she thought she knew with the woman standing before her holding keys to a house none of them could afford. How much did you put down? Marcus demanded, as if he had any right to know my finances. That's none of your business, I replied calmly. But since you're so curious, 20%. Plus I negotiated repair credits. The monthly payment is less than what you pay for your car, Marcus. Because unlike you, I bought something I can actually afford. That hit him hard. He took a step back like I'd physically pushed him. My sister's husband, who'd been standing awkwardly through all this, whispered something to her. She nodded and they started backing toward their car. The performance was over. The reveal was complete. I held up the keys, and they caught the afternoon sunlight, glinting like justice made tangible. You want to know the funniest part? I said, not quite able to keep the edge out of my voice. Every single one of you tried to buy this house. Every one of you failed. Not because you weren't smart enough or successful enough, but because you're all drowning in debt from trying to look successful instead of actually being successful. You built houses of cards and wondered why they collapsed. Marcus tried one more time to regain some control. So what, you think you're better than us now? You think one house makes you special? I shook my head. I don't think I'm better than you, Marcus. I know I'm smarter than you. I know I'm more disciplined. I know I understand delayed gratification in a way you never learned. Better. That's your game. That's your competition. I'm not playing. I'm just living my actual life instead of performing someone else's version of success. My mother looked like she might cry. Naomi, sweetheart, we're happy for you. We're just surprised. Were they happy for me? Or were they embarrassed that the family failure had outperformed them all? I'd probably never know for sure. Thanks, Mom, I said, trying to soften just slightly. I know this is unexpected, but this is happening. This is real. I bought this house. I earned it. And nothing you say or don't say changes that. Patricia, sensing the tension, spoke up professionally. Well, Ms. Naomi, shall we do a final walkthrough? I have the paperwork inside. I nodded gratefully. Before turning toward the house, I looked at my family one more time. They stood there on the driveway in their expensive clothes and their financed luxury cars, looking smaller somehow than they had before. You know what Marcus said that night at dinner 2 years ago? I asked quietly. He said this house would be for VIP only. That I definitely wouldn't be invited to the housewarming party. I paused, letting them remember that moment. Letting them feel the weight of those words now that the tables had turned. Well, I'm having a housewarming party in 6 weeks. Once I get the repairs done and the place fixed up exactly how I want it. Their faces showed confused hope for just a second before I delivered the line I'd been waiting years to say. This housewarming party? VIP only. I let that hang in the air for a moment. Then I turned and walked toward my front door. My front door, with Patricia following. I closed the door quietly behind us, but the victory was deafening. Through the window, I watched my family slowly disperse to their cars and drive away. Marcus kicked at the gravel in frustration. My sister was crying. My mother tried to comfort her while looking utterly confused. My father just stood there for a long moment staring at my new house before finally walking to his car. And I stood in my empty living room, keys in hand, feeling lighter than I'd felt in years. The weight of their judgment, their mockery, their dismissal, it all fell away in that moment. Because I'd proven something they never thought possible. I'd proven them wrong. When they were gone, Patricia turned to me with tears in her eyes. I've been in real estate for 20 years, she said. And that was one of the most satisfying closings I've ever witnessed. Good for you, Naomi. You earned this in every way that matters. I thanked her, and we did the final walkthrough together. Empty rooms that would soon be filled with furniture I'd carefully budgeted for. Hardwood floors that needed polishing. Walls that needed painting. A kitchen that needed minor updates. None of it was perfect. All of it was mine. After Patricia left, I walked through the house alone, my footsteps echoing in the empty rooms. I stood in what would be my bedroom and looked out the window at the oak tree in the backyard. And finally, with no one around to see, I let myself cry. Not sad tears. Not angry tears. Relief tears. Victory tears. Tears for the girl who'd been mocked and dismissed and told she'd never amount to anything. Tears for the woman who'd worked 2 jobs in secret and sacrificed and saved and never gave up. Tears for the moment I'd dreamed about for 2 years finally becoming real. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into making the house truly mine. I hired contractors for the foundation work and electrical updates. I learned to paint walls from YouTube videos and spent weekends covered in paint splatters. I refinished the hardwood floors myself, on my knees for hours with a sander I rented from the hardware store. I planted flowers in the front yard and vegetables in the back. Every improvement I made with my own hands felt like an act of defiance against everyone who'd said I couldn't. My family's reaction in the following weeks was mixed and complicated. My mother called several times, her voice overly cheerful and fake. "We're so proud of you, honey. We always knew you could do it." Which was a blatant lie, but I let it slide. Marcus didn't call at all for 3 weeks, then finally sent a short text, "Congrats on the house." No apology. No acknowledgement of how he'd treated me. Just 3 words that cost him nothing. My sister visited once, walking through like she was at a museum, commenting on everything I'd chosen with barely concealed judgment. But there were surprises too. My father showed up one Saturday unannounced with his toolbox. "Heard you were doing repairs yourself," he said gruffly. "Thought you might need help." We worked in silence for most of the day, fixing a loose stair railing and installing new light fixtures. Finally, as he was packing up to leave, he stopped and looked at me. "I'm sorry I didn't see you, Naomi. Really see you. I'm sorry I let them make you feel small. You're stronger than any of us." It wasn't enough to erase years of dismissal, but it was something. It was a start. I also heard through my mother that Marcus had started having serious financial problems. The car was repossessed. Credit cards were maxed. He'd apparently been living so far beyond his means for so long that everything was collapsing at once. Part of me, the petty part that remembered every insult, felt satisfied. But mostly I just felt sad. Sad that he'd wasted so much time and money on image instead of substance. Sad that he'd probably never learn. Sad that his ego wouldn't allow him to ask for help or admit he'd been wrong. 6 weeks after closing, I threw my housewarming party. Not a big Instagram-worthy event. Just a simple gathering with people who actually cared about me. Co-workers from both jobs. Friends I'd made in community college classes. Neighbors who'd welcomed me warmly. My father came. My mother came but left early, uncomfortable around people she didn't consider important enough. Marcus didn't come. My sister came but spent the whole time on her phone and left after 20 minutes. But it didn't matter. Because the people who were there were real. They'd supported me when I was struggling. They'd celebrated my small victories along the way. They'd never made me feel less than. One of my co-workers from the non-profit, an older woman named Diane who'd always been kind to me, pulled me aside. "You know what I love about this house," she said. "Every single thing in it, you earned. No shortcuts. No handouts. No pretending. Just honest work. That's rare. Naomi. Hold on to that." As people left that evening, I stood on my porch watching the sun set behind the oak tree. I thought about the journey that had brought me here. The late nights delivering groceries in a helmet. The meals prepped in tiny containers. The clothes from thrift stores. The vacations I never took. The mockery I endured. The moment at that dinner table 2 years ago when something inside me broke and rebuilt into something stronger. Was it worth it? Every single sacrifice. Every single moment. 3 months after moving in, I was gardening in the front yard when Marcus pulled up in a beat-up sedan. No more BMW. He sat in the car for a full minute before getting out. I kept working, pulling weeds, pretending I hadn't noticed him. Finally, he approached slowly. "House looks good," he said awkwardly. "You did a lot of work." I stood up, brushing dirt from my knees. "Yeah, I did." Silence stretched between us. Then quietly, he said something I never expected. "I'm sorry." I looked at him. Really looked. He looked tired. Defeated. Human in a way I'd never seen before. "I'm sorry for how I treated you," he continued. "For the things I said. For making you feel worthless. I am drowning in debt and jealousy and ego. You had what I pretended to have, actual control of your life. And I resented you for it." His voice cracked. "I lost everything trying to look successful. And you gained everything by actually being disciplined. I was wrong. About everything." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to stay angry, to hold on to the hurt. But standing there in my front yard, in front of the house I'd earned, I realized I didn't need to. I'd already won. Not by having more than him, but by having peace. By having something real instead of something performed. "Thank you for saying that," I said finally. I needed to hear it. He nodded. Can I ask you something? How did you do it? How did you stay disciplined when it would have been easier to just give up?" I thought about his question carefully. I stayed disciplined because I had a clear goal and I understood the cost of not reaching it. You all mocked my low salary, but I knew that salary plus my side job was enough if I didn't waste it. I knew delayed gratification meant actual gratification later, and I knew that your approval wasn't worth sacrificing my future for. I paused. The hardest part wasn't saving money or working 2 jobs. It was sitting at family dinners being treated like a failure while I was actually succeeding. But I learned something important. Your opinion of me was never the truth. It was just your opinion. Marcus absorbed that, nodding slowly. "Can you teach me?" he asked. "How to budget? How to dig out of this hole? I don't want to be this person anymore." I considered it. Old wounds don't heal instantly. Trust isn't rebuilt overnight. But people can change if they truly want to. "Maybe," I said. "But only if you're serious. Only if you're ready to actually do the work and not just look for shortcuts." He promised he was. Time would tell if that was true. But I was willing to give him a chance, not because he deserved it, but because I'd become someone who valued growth over grudges. A year has passed since I bought this house. The repairs are complete. The garden is thriving. I've refinanced at an even better rate. I've paid down the principal aggressively. I've continued saving and investing. I still work both jobs, not because I have to anymore, but because I enjoy the financial security and the work itself. My relationship with my family is still complicated and imperfect, but it's more honest now. They see me differently. More importantly, I see myself differently. I learned something profound through this experience. People will doubt you. People will mock you. People will tell you that your path is wrong because it doesn't look like theirs. But success isn't about convincing others of your worth. It's about building something real while they're busy performing something fake. It's about delayed gratification and discipline and working when others are playing. It's about understanding that looking successful and being successful are 2 completely different things. If you're reading this and you're the one being mocked for your low salary, or your old car or your modest lifestyle, keep going. Keep saving. Keep working. Keep building. Because the people laughing now will be the ones standing frozen on your driveway later, speechless and stunned, watching you succeed in ways they never thought possible. And when that moment comes, you won't need to say much. Your success will speak louder than any words ever could. The house you bought. The debt you don't have. The peace you've built. That's your answer. That's your victory. And nobody can take it away from you.